everyone, welcome to part 2 of variation 13. We're going to go into different bowings and ways of practicing string crossings, and we're going to start with bowing variation A. That combines spiccato with a slur, and it's conceived in a way that the slur is alternately on a down bow and on an up bow. Now, when you start off, do it a bit slower at the frog with active finger movement of your right hand directing the bow. Make sure when you get to the slur to let the bow's own weight stop it from bouncing. The next thing to remember is not to lift the bow on the note after the slur, but after the note after the slur. So the transition from the slur to the next spiccato note happens on the string. That's very necessary for it to be clear. So you go, that happens on the string. Lift the bow after the beat. When you can do that, move a little bit away from the frog and speed it up slightly. At that speed already, it's very, very important to watch out that you don't use too much bow for the slur, because you'll travel away from where the spiccato works. So you won't be able to and then try to do the spiccato up here. That won't work. So use as little bow for the slur as you possibly can so that you remain in the place of the bow which is best for the spiccato at the speed that you're doing. As you speed up, again, move further away from the frog and allow your finger action to become more passive and let the bow do more of the directing of the bouncing. That's not as difficult as it sounds, because if you've built it up by practicing at the frog and build up the speed slowly by moving away from the frog, then you'll get up to a faster speed without much trouble. Next, we're going to do collé in the middle of the bow. In part 1 of variation 13, we did collé at the frog of the bow, and I'm not going to go into the details of collé again, but we're going to now do it in the middle, where the placing of the bow becomes more important. Catch the string, and as you release, lift the bow. As you can see, it's still my fingers doing it. That doesn't change wherever you do collé. Just, you might need a bit more time placing the bow the further away you are from the frog. Make sure you give yourself time to place the bow and catch the string. It doesn't matter how slow you do it, the point is to catch the string. The next thing you do is you do collé at the tip of the bow. Now at the tip of the bow, your hand is far away from the string, and it's important that you remember that you need more weight to catch the string, particularly the G string. Everything else remains the same. So remember, you need more weight when you're doing collé at the tip of the bow. You might need more time placing the bow, and make sure you catch the string, because that's what collé is all about. The next thing we're going to do is martelè in the upper half of the bow. Martelè is very similar to collé because you're also catching the string. The only difference is, instead of lifting the bow when you release, you let the bow travel. So you start in the middle on the G string, catch the string, and when you release, let the bow travel to the tip. Again, catch the string, and when you release, let the bow travel back to the middle. Very, very important is that you give yourself time to catch the string, because that is exactly what gives the clicking sound, which is typical for Martelè. So if you don't hear the clicking sound, then you didn't catch the string properly, and technically it's not Martelè. So always give yourself enough time to catch the string. That will speed up on its own if you practice it regularly. The next thing to know is if you're doing string crossings in the upper half, they are done with the upper arm. The upper arm determines which string you're on. This is G string, D string, A string, and E string. So the upper half does the string crossings, and because the strings are not on top of each other but next to each other and there's a distance between them, you will land at a slightly different place of the bow. So if you start on the G string, then you're here. If you look at where the hairs are touching the string, if you go over to the D string, that will be in a slightly different place. It will be almost a centimeter further towards the frog. That becomes even more apparent if you go from the G string to the A string, or from the G string to the E string. So as obvious as it sounds, it's important to bear that in mind. Now, very important is when you catch the string, release, travel, and then the order of movements. Your upper arm does the string crossing to the D string, then you catch the string, and then you release and travel. Again, stop the bow, upper arm does the string crossing, catch the string, release and travel. And so on. So do it very, very slowly once to get your order of movements right, because one of the reasons why practicing Martelè string crossings in the upper half is so good is because it forces you to do the string crossing before you continue playing. And if you have something to play with lots of string crossings and you feel they're not quite clear, practicing the Martelè will usually clear them up. So that's a very, very helpful thing. Practicing Collé in the middle and at the tip of the bow and practicing Martelè at the upper half is extremely good for your control of bow in the upper half and at the tip. Bowing variation B combines spiccato with detachèt. The detachèt needs more bow, obviously, and it also needs more weight to stop the bow from bouncing. That's why the detachèt is marked forte and the spiccato is marked piano. Now, inspired by a comment I got on another video, I'd like to go into the musical aspect of these bowings a little bit, because that's a very important part of bow technique, because the bow is what makes the music, so the whole point of this is to make music. Now, spiccato is light and bouncy. That's why we lift the wrist, because the bow's own weight at this part will actually stop it from bouncing. So it's light and bouncy. Think about your own adjective, because that will be what you will feel about spiccato. So think about what spiccato would actually be for you. The detachèt is much more present, much more deliberate. So here also think of your own adjective, because it has to be your own. So that's the combination. You're kind of switching between the two of them. It's like a dialogue. So notice after the detachèt how I immediately lift my wrist so the bow is nice and light for the spiccato again. I'll show you one more time. You can use plenty of bow for the detachèt, just make sure that the last note of the detachèt brings you back exactly to where you did the spiccato, because if you're not exactly there, then it will become more difficult. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please keep on inspiring me with your comments, because that makes the whole thing really a lot of fun, and there's so many things I don't think about myself, so please keep up the comments and yeah, enjoy bow technique.